Burns Night is January 25th, and this year I'm going to celebrate it by reading a Robert Burns poem about hair. Where else? Down there. This is the Detangler, where our goal is to detangle and better understand the cultural implications of hair as it appears in art, rituals, legends, and rules. I realize that the reason why a lot of you may be here is because the hair that I've been focusing on lately is the hair that covers a particular part of the body. And today is no exception. In fact, the Robert Burns poem that I'm about to read to you contains a dirty word. So dirty that I'm going to bleep it out. Yes, that's true. The 18th century celebrated poet who gave us Auld Lang Syne is apparently too filthy for our 21st century sensitive ears to handle. The word is... Let me know if you think that I should also release an uncensored, unbleeped, R-rated version of this video so that you can appreciate this poem in all of its glory. Soon I'll be creating membership levels for the Detangler where you can have access to any of my content uncensored whenever it warrants it. You're an adult, you can handle it, right? And now, on with the show! First, I need to give a little bit of backstory for my fellow Americans. Burns Night is a national celebration here in the UK, especially in Scotland. It celebrates the poet Robert Burns. I can't think of any other national holiday that celebrates a poet or a writer. Can you? Let me know in the comments below if you can think of one. Robert Burns wrote hundreds of poems and songs in addition to Auld Lang Syne. He was really influential to the Romantics like William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Percy Bysshe Shelley. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, he took that title from a Robert Burns poem. Bob Dylan said that one of his poems was like the most influential inspiration in his life. He was a big deal. And so Burns Night is always celebrated every year on his birthday, January 25th, with traditional Scottish foods like haggis and whiskey, and you recite a bunch of Robert Burns poems, and it always ends with everybody singing Auld Lang Syne. Oh, and don't confuse Burns Night with Bonfire Night when things burn. Different British holidays. The poem I'm going to read to you is called Nae Hair On't. It's a bawdy song that Burns and his drinking buddies would have sung at their local. It's a cheeky one, and he uses the word of course, because it's slang and it's coarse. And this requires me to give more backstory to my fellow Americans, because is a very offensive word. It is like the nastiest thing you can call a woman. Remember that time Samantha Bee got canceled for calling Ivanka Trump a feckless one?
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless. He listens to you.
Whereas here in the UK, we call our politicians all the time.
Health Secretary Jeremy Cunt.
Jeremy Cunt.
That's right, Jeremy Cunt.
Mr. Cunt. The cunts.
I mean, they're politicians. They deserve it. Here in the UK, is a pretty basic swear word. I mean, it is not polite at all, but it's not shocking. And you can use it for men as well as for women. You can even use it as kind of like a friendly, affectionate term, like how in America, sometimes women will call each other bitches. It's an ancient word that has the same root as create, queen, and wisdom. Geoffrey Chaucer referred to William Shakespeare referred to Samuel Pepys referred to. If you're interested in the origins of the word, you should check out the talk by the always interesting Kate Lister. I'll leave the link down below. So forgive me, Americans, if this poem makes your ears bleed. I guess that's just what happens when you don't grow up celebrating Burns Night. But hair! I've gone all this time and I haven't talked about hair yet. Let me read you the poem and you'll see. I'm not even going to attempt a Scottish accent, and I'm certainly not going to sing this, but if you want to hear it done, I will leave you a few links down below where you can give it a listen. Okay, here goes. Yestreen I wed a lady fair, and ye wad believe me. On her there grows nae hair, that's the thing that grieves me. It vexed me, sir, it plagued me, sir, it put me in a passion, to think that I had wed a wife whose was out of fashion. Hair was necessary on a woman in the 18th century. It was probably 1795 or so when Robert Burns was singing this with his drinking buddies. That period of time was the height of merkin fashion. There's a dictionary from about the same time that defines a merkin as counterfeit hair for the monosyllable. And you know which monosyllable they're referring to, don't you? Because even though was the common word to use in those days, it had by then become an offensive word. So during the 18th century, they started writing out with a V or dashes in place of the U. But the point is, pubic hair was expected then. Men would proudly have lockets of their lovers' pubic hair to show off at gentlemen's clubs, which maybe didn't have dancers and were incredibly much more exclusive than modern-day gentlemen clubs, but still, they focused on sex. If you were a woman who didn't have any, you'd have wanted to wear a merkin. It just goes to show you how incredibly important it was to have pubes back then. I like to think that Robert Burns and his drinking pals would have been fans of the detangler. They realized that the way people wear their pubes is a fashion. It's subject to the whims of time. I'm endlessly fascinated by the cultural and historical implications of how people wore their hair, thought about their hair, and joked about their hair. The whole point of this channel is to understand why hair is so important that people make art about it, write poems about it. Robert Burns understood that he was a product of his time. On the Detangler, we are working our way through pubic hair history, and we haven't quite hit the 18th century yet, so let this be an amuse-bouche for more research heading your way. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and tell your friends about the Detangler. In the meantime, when you're celebrating your burn supper this year, just make sure your haggis isn't hairy.